In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to do the lab work and the calculations for the density of metal wires in the Metals and Electrochemistry lab report. So I'm going to demonstrate the steel version. So in my lab kit, I'm going to find my 2-inch steel wire, and it's not exactly 2 inches, you will have to measure it. I'm going to take this out of the bag. And the first step is to get the mass, and we're going to do 3 different trials. So I'm going to turn on my scale and wait for it to tare. Now it's reading 0. I'm going to just place this on there, wait for it to settle, and I got 0.23 grams, so I'm going to write that down for trial number 1. And however many digits show on your scale, that's how many you should show. I'm going to tare it between each one, make sure it's at 0. Now I'm going to do trial 2, 0.23 grams. I'm just going to tare it, make sure it's 0. And now I'm going to do the third trial, and this time I got 0.24 grams. All right, we're going to finish up the experimental work before we do any of the calculations. So I have all 3 of my mass trials written down here. And the next thing I need to do is measure the length in centimeters. So even though it said it's 2 inches, that's approximate. So I'm going to take this ruler, or you can use any ruler, but measure it in centimeters. And remember, your ruler is marked to the tenths, so you need to read it out to the hundredths. So I'm going to try to get it straight on here. All right. So this looks like I have 3.5678, and then it's not quite halfway between the 8 and the 9. So 3.83 is what I'm going to write down. 3.83 centimeters. Okay, so that's the end of the experimental portion, and now we're going to go on to the calculations.
Okay, copy the data over here, and we're going to start by calculating the average mass. For anytime you want to find an average, you just take the sum or add up all the trials and then divide by the total number of trials. So in this case, it's going to be 0.23 plus 0.23 plus 0.24 divided by 3 total trials. So be sure to add up the numerator before dividing. And I have my calculator right here. Feel free to do this problem along with me. So my calculator showed 0.23333 and on. But as we've said, those aren't all significant numbers. So each of these had 2, so we're going to take 2 significant figures. And our average mass is going to be 0.23 grams. All right, now we're going to start looking at a volume. In order to calculate the volume, we're going to use the equation that was given in your lab report, which is volume equals pi r squared times L. So that means pi, r is radius, and then L is length. So the radius is going to be the diameter divided by 2, and diameter was given to us up here. So r equals d divided by 2. So why don't we go ahead and do that first. I'm going to go back to my calculator, 0.1024 divided by 2, and I get 0.0512 centimeters. Remember, those units are always important. And then length is the length measurement that we got, 3.83 centimeters. And it's important for everything to be in the same units. So we have the radius in centimeters, the length in centimeters, so we can go ahead and calculate our volume. using that equation. So we're going to use pi, which is a button on your calculator. The radius, which we said is 0.0512 centimeters, and that's going to be squared. And then our length is 3.83 centimeters. So I'm going to put this in my calculator. I have to search for that pi button, times 0.0512 squared times 3.83 equals 0.0315419. And I'm just writing this so you can see all the digits that your calculator is going to give you. And again, you're not going to keep all of these digits. Since this length one had 3 digits, I'm going to just keep 3. And let's think about what our units are going to be here. We have the radius is centimeters squared. And then if you multiply by 1 more centimeter, you get centimeters cubed. And that makes sense for a volume. So I'm going to copy that and put it up here for our volume. Okay, now we can move on to density. Density equals mass over volume. Okay, so the mass, we're going to take that average mass that we calculated at the top, which is 0.23 grams. And then the volume that we just calculated. So we'll put that in the calculator. 0.23 divided by 0.0315. And that gives me 7.3015. That's what my calculator gave me. Since the average mass had only 2 digits, I'm just going to keep 2. 7.3. And what are my units for density? Well, it's mass divided by volume. The mass was in grams, and the volume we know was in centimeters cubed. So we're going to put this up here for our answer. And all of the work that I've gone through and showed you for calculating the average mass, the volume, and the density, you should show all of your work for all of that. And if you need to do that on another piece of paper, feel free. So I hope you feel more confident for filling out this lab report.